But upon hearing these things, they were stung in their hearts. Meaning what? Wounded, pierced, hurt. So that they began gnashing their teeth at him. Now 57 shows the crowd to be close-banded, they will hear no more. And crying out with a loud voice, they covered their ears. And that's not all. They rushed with one accord at him. They're going to make sure he says no more to them or to anybody. Verse 58, and after casting him out of the city, they started stoning him. Now, why did they cast him out of the city? Why didn't they just stone him there where they were? Well, remember where Jesus was crucified? Outside the gate. That was very symbolic and meaningful to the Jewish people then. Whatever was cast or taken outside of the city was a sign that the people of Israel had rejected whatever they threw outside the city. So the Jews rejected Jesus and they took him and crucified him outside the city. Why have they taken Stephen outside the city? They're gonna put him to death. They're gonna execute him. Jerusalem is called the holiest city. They wanted to remain holy. They don't want to shed blood inside the city. So after casting him outside the city, I notice the word cast, that's a really harsh term. It's interesting, the Greek word here is used in Mark chapter 1 of the Holy Spirit casting Jesus out in the desert to be tempted by the devil. And that word cast, I think when used of Jesus, he didn't want to go out in the desert and be tempted. You like being tempted, and you're a sinful person. We should mind being tempted a whole lot less than what Jesus minded. But he's a holy person. He didn't like being tempted at all. And I think the Holy Spirit had to do this, sort of shove Jesus, push Jesus out into the desert to be tempted. And so it's the very same Greek word right here. I think Stephen is reading the handwriting on the wall. He knows what's on their mind. These guys are not just going to disagree with me. They're going to silence me. And so they cast him out of the city. They started stoning him. And the witnesses laid their garments at the feet of a young man named Saul. Now, this is an interesting way for this to end, focusing on the participants, a participant watching this martyrdom who would himself one day be martyred. Now, I want you to look on the back of some applications for us. Number one, in identifying the man at whose feet the executioner's garments were placed, why, I'm asking myself, does the text mention Saul's youth? It doesn't tell us. Here's my suggestion. Perhaps to inform readers that as a young man he was full of misdirected passion but short of prudence. In foolish zeal, Saul had persecuted the people of God. I really appreciate what David says over and over in the Old Testament. Lord, please don't remember the sins of my what? Youth. And I think after dealing with college students for 41 years, I've learned that they are very strong on passion, short on wisdom, short on self-restraint, and they err quite a bit. So I think young people are prone to doing things wrong. And certainly Saul was no exception. Now, except for one person here. Except for one person here. Who would that be? Chris and you. Except for her. We're old. None of us are young. So my point that I want to make is, okay, young people tend to be rash and not real wise, and they rush off into wrongdoing. Hence, please don't remember the sins of my youth. Whoa, how many times I prayed that to the Lord? I got things in my past I don't want anybody to know about. I want to try and forget them too, and I want the Lord to forget them. But the point I want to make here is, okay, most of us here are not young. We should do a better job than young people do in the moral life. Number two, to show that Christ was already in process of rescuing him from his destructive ways, heaven would transform harmful Saul into helpful Paul. From a foolish, narrow-minded Saul to a wise, open, mature man. It would be a huge blessing to many people. You and I are continuing to benefit from Paul's ministry through the writings that God led him to write and record and to put in our New Testament. That man's still ministering today. Number three, and we would find out from Acts later, it was older believers whom heaven would use to assist in transforming the caterpillar Saul into the butterfly Paul. As older believers, we want to be used to help others.